elves, humans, demons, golems. They crash over the fantasy. Look, we've seen this before. It's a fantasy war game. You know what this is. Or do you? Welcome to the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra, and today we are going to be talking about Eldfall Chronicles, the skirmish fantasy war game from Free Company, and whether you should be checking it out. More accurately, why you should be. Before we get into that, as ever, thank you to channel members and patrons. You guys are absolutely keeping the lights on over here, and I greatly appreciate you, especially the mighty Joe Rogers, the longest standing supporter of the channel. Please do like, share, subscribe, put this out there, especially if you have friends who play Infinity. Now, we are a channel established on Infinity. There is no two ways about that. So when I say, if you like Infinity, you're going to want to watch this, I really mean you do. So let's start there. Let's talk about a couple of things and see if this sounds familiar to you, okay? Free rules. Free army builder. Reacting to enemy movements. Dodge. Idle. D20s. Face-to-face rolls. These are all sounding a bit familiar, aren't they? When I first became aware of the system, a distance back, Eldfall Chronicles, I was like, okay, another fantasy game. It's a fantasy game. Lovely. We see the renders, beautiful. And the renders are beautiful. You see the miniatures. The miniatures are beautiful. How many fantasy games have come out in the past few years with beautiful miniatures and beautiful renders, and then you actually see them in real life? It's a bit scruffy. Or it's just another thing that you've seen before. I gotta be honest, that was my initial thought. You know what it's like, you're a war gamer, we're probably a war gamer as well. You see all of the stuff that's coming out, and we get a lot, and as time goes by, we get more. And you have a finite amount of time, and you have a finite amount of brain space, and I looked at Eldfall, and it was pretty. That was cool. That's kind of as far as we went. Then I started looking at it more heavily. There was a whole bunch of reasons why, but essentially it started looking a little bit more interesting, and I watched a couple of videos on it, and it's really started to sound familiar. Reaction mechanics, things like that. And I was like, hey, this feels a bit like Infinity, but we'll get to that. Let's talk about who and the what and the why and the where and a little bit of lore and all this kind of stuff. Let's set the scene for this system first of all. So, as I say, Eldfall Chronicles it's a war game. It comes from Free Company of Slovenia. They were founded in 2021, little team. They've used crowdfunding to get themselves where they are pretty much, which in this day and age, it's hardly news, let's be honest with you. They seem to be a very responsive team, seem to be very switched on. They are currently about to release a dungeon crawler called Northern Wind. Supposed to wins for anyway, we're not going there. So that's coming out too. The miniatures from that will be usable in the war game too. So that's cool. That's nice. There's that kind of crossover. And what about the actual setting here? We're dealing with the world of Calad. There's a lot of actually surprising, to be honest with you, surprising amount of lore for a relatively new game. It's only been out a couple of years. There's a relatively good amount of lore, backstory. There's some short stories on the website as well, all available for free. So there is lots of crunchy stuff to get your teeth into. We have the world of Calad. We've got 4 different races at the moment as it stands. That'll become relevant in a second. We have the Empire of Soga, also known as the Good Guys. They are clearly an Asian-inspired race. Game-wise, they're fairly straightforward. They're durable, they're violent. They're my favourite. They do damage output basically, and they can take some lumps back, but they smack stuff. They don't do the sneaky stuff. They do the pokey stuff basically. That's the whole thing, and I like a bit of pokey stuff. And they're good at it. In the east of the world, we have the Coalition of Thenian, and they are the assassin murder elves of death. My own notes. That's kind of accurate. Lilith's going to be playing those, so that's exciting. My wife, Lilith, she's going to be playing those. These move fast, they're sneaky, they hit hard, and then they have to run. They are the archetypal glass cannon. The real sort of hit, run, get out of their tactics. They can walk through walls. They can become incorporeal. I mean, it's just cool. It's just funky. In the south, there's the Helion League. These are the paladins. They are trying to restore order because you should read the lore. But they're going to restore order. They are your kings of synergy. So you have a dude that buffs the dude who does buffs with the buffy buff, and that becomes a little murder ball that progresses its way across the board and then goes dunk, and whoever gets dunked remains dunked, basically. And they use that kind of the synergy system and some magic to protect themselves, which is kind of funky. In the west, we have the Sand Kingdoms, and they are kind of an Arabic fairy tale inspired type culture. We have flying carpets and stuff like that, but their whole thing is being mages, basically. They're doing the magic, they're doing that stuff. So they can conjure monsters and bring them onto the battlefield, which is truly horrific, to have this mage go boop, and then I had this happen a couple of weeks ago in game, boop, and then there's a bad guy, and boop, and there's another bad guy. It's like, well, hang on a second. And they're not like squishy, cuddly bad guys. These things are huge, but they are very squishy. So if you can get through the conjured stuff and start poking them with stuff, they don't tend to like that. They tend to react very poorly to being poked with things. Would recommend, 10 out of 10. So those are the current 4 factions. We have 2 more factions coming. We have the Goblins and the Oni. They are dropping the end of April 2025, I believe, or thereabouts, with the Dungeon Crawler. They're going to have their own unique feel as well, their own unique look, and they're stunning. They're absolutely gorgeous. I got a tournament pack. Look at that miniature! That's an Oni, that's in the box. How cool is that? Yeah, they do tournament packs. Yeah, they're really good. They got stuff in them, and the stuff's really good because that miniature's in there, and she's stunning. But yeah, they only are kind of, they bring a whole different playstyle. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. We'll look at miniatures as well. So that's kind of your setting. It's an interesting take, actually. There are some nice touches in there, like humans appeared from a portal to a world that was basically elf. They turned up and ruined everything. So yeah, it's an interesting setup. It's an interesting world. The factions are familiar, but have their own take, and they're cool. I like the aesthetics. I think they're very well executed. But that's kind of, what a lot of companies have done the worlds well, and they've done some nice miniatures. Now, let's talk about the system. So the system, this is the rulebook. This is a 93-page, full colour, very pretty book. As I say, available for free online. Or you can buy them, or you can get them in starter packs. Starter packs, important. 93-page A5. This game can be played solo, co-op, or competitive. Hence the tournament pack. We're going to be doing them. It's skirmish, but it's skirmish. So the miniatures in here are 34mm. Let's talk about that for a sec. So that's one of them. You can see they are pretty big, actually. Pretty substantial. And you get monsters as well in there as well, and they're even bigger. Gribblies! Guess who hasn't painted all their miniatures yet? So you will have 3 or 4 of these in your army, basically. That's it. Okay? We're currently, locally, we're just learning the system and getting our feet wet with it, really. And we're playing 60 points, which is 3 miniatures. At a tournament, you take 85, but then you will then choose a roster for each round of less of 65 points. So you're looking at 3 to 4 miniatures as standard, okay? It's 5 turns per game, and they're played on a 3x3 board. So smaller number of miniatures, smaller table, smaller amount of terrain needed. The games themselves take an hour to 90 minutes. At the moment, we're more towards the 90 minutes, but that's because there's lots of in the rulebook. It's a quest-based game, so a mission-based game. You have lots of missions. They are available for free. There are tournament ones that are available for free as well. Download the PDF off the website. We put those in the links in the description. You also have schemes. Now, if you are a Malifaux player, this will sound familiar. We actually have, where are we? A deck of cards with the schemes on. Each faction has their own set of schemes, which are tailored to their playstyle. So you won't get generic schemes that try and fit all 4 factions, as is now 6 later. But this is only the first 4 in there, to be clear. You won't get schemes that are kind of go and cover the board with the Hellions who need to stay up close and squished up together to be effective. You're not going to get that. They have schemes that are suitable for them. And these are hidden secondary missions, basically, that you draw and use. So you have those schemes. An hour to 90 minutes or thereabouts. So that's the kind of overview of it. How does it actually play? Well, each of your miniatures, and I'm going to use cards because we have cards in this game, and these are really nice cards. So these cards have your rules on the back. If you've played Star Wars Legion, things like that, this will look familiar. We have all of our stats down the side here. We have our weaponry. We have our traits and our abilities up here, and these are our classes, which means stuff as well. And on the back we have the bulk of that explained, and then like this guy is a good archer, so he has an archery ability, and these are all the different things that you can do. You have 3 classes, and you can pick one of those, just to briefly cover. So in your turn, you have a stamina stat, a STA stat. He has 2. Most guys have 2. That gives you a token. That token may be spent on you to do 2 things. Infinity players just went, that's an order. Yes, it is. It's an activation. And you can use that activation to do 2 things. One of those must be a movement skill, which can be move or run or idle, which is Infinity N5, but these guys have been doing it for longer. You then can do another skill. Boop. Shoot. Conjure. Do something. Some abilities require all of your stamina token, your activation, to do. Kind of like they take a long time to do that skill. A long skill. I don't know. Anyway. But the interesting thing is, you don't create a pool to share. That dude has 2. He has 2 activations per turn, and they are his. Other people have 2. They get to do that. So you get to do 2 things with them. There are things you can do about that. For example, with Soga, we have the Kitsune, and she's a mage, and if she gets within 10 inches of one of your guys, and one of your guys doesn't have, or that guy doesn't have any activations left, she can go kapow, and then he gets another set of activations, another 1 activation, so he can go off and boop the boop, which is awesome. A little bit of synergy there, a little bit of magic, kind of cool. Or if you're playing Oni, for example, you will normally have 3 stamina, so you'll have 3 activations per miniature per turn, but you'll have less miniatures. So rather than having 3, you'll have 2. So it all comes out in the wash. When you're doing those activations, if your enemy has line of fire to the dude doing them, wait for it, they can react automatically with a reaction activation. I didn't say it. They can react with shoot if they have a bow, or if you're coming in to attack them, they can chop you back, or they can do a magicy. But it does reduce the efficacy of that. So if they normally would like get 3 attacks, they only get 1 when they react. Yeah. This is sounding very familiar, isn't it? So you have that mechanic of reaction. You're always engaged in the game. But crucially, those reactions when you start the turn, so if you're the active player and you're spending your activations, which your stamina generates, the reactive player on the other side of the table does the same thing. So if he has 2 actions on a guy, he can only do 2 reactions in your active phase. So there's no as many times as you activate reactions, there is a finite number of times that you can respond to somebody doing something. So in our games, we found that that leads to kind of baiting out those reactions and being like, you're going to respond to him or you're going to respond to him? Because I'm going to hit you with both of them. And one of them is going to hurt you because you're not going to be able to respond to it. It brings an interesting dynamic to the game. You can't continually respond. You have to pick and choose where that happens. And you can then out-activate your opponent, which is kind of funky. It's kind of nice to be able to be like, no, I baited you, I pushed you into this so I could spring the trap and go, ha-chop! And that is epic to have that when that comes off. Dice rolls, if you are attacking each other, then you have, I'm going to go back to my cards because we've got them here. So this is your stamina at the top. This is speed, so that's how many inches you move. Offense, in your active phase, if you boop somebody with something, that's what you use, that or lower on a d20. In defense, you use, this is a bad example because his are the same. Normally they're lower, so in defense, so if you're reacting, you will use the defense value. So with certain other units, of course I don't have one to hand, I'm going to try and find one now. There we go, that's a better example. Slayer Dragoon, here we go. So she is 17 on the offense and 8 on defense. So she's better when smacking people in the face than when being smacked in the face, to wit. ACC is accuracy, so that's range shooting. Intelligence is for, well, guess what? Magic. And things like that. AGG is agility for dodging, toughness, armor, hit points, and morale. Just to finish off the discussion. But in that reaction action situation, normally being on the offensive is better than reacting. You want to be doing the attack, not receiving the attack. You kind of want to have a controlled aggression type thing. Anyone that's watched any of our Infinity How to Play videos just twitched. Controlled aggression. So that's kind of cool. It's kind of familiar. Or you can dodge. You can dodge out the way. Unlike other systems, if you succeed in that dodge, then you avoid the attack, even if the attacker rolls a higher value, unless they crit, because criticals are a thing. Buzzing through this, but trust me, a lot of Infinity players were really twitching at this. This is really familiar stuff. This is really, really similar stuff. You have a lot of keywords on here, which give you buffs and abilities. So you have those kind of abilities that are inside this game that could use speed to stack your guys and all that one, could put things in your benefit. But yeah, action, reaction, that's all in there. That includes to magic and with magic. When you land those hits, then you start rolling to damage someone. There isn't a roll to save per se, there is a roll to damage. So you'll have a damage value, which the armor will come off and cover will come off, and then you'll try and roll that or less. Everything is that or less on a D20. D20 system, that or less. So you've played Infinity, this is all incredibly familiar. But there are quality of life things inside the system that make it nicer in some ways. It's less, you have all the options, you have all the choice, it feels like, but it doesn't feel as overwhelming. It feels a much more streamlined experience. And there are certain things inside the rules, like pre-measuring. There are 3 ways to play Eldfall Chronicles: with pre-measuring, with some pre-measuring, and with no pre-measuring. They're in the rules, and they're all legit, and you can agree it beforehand, which is kind of funky. The rules say you can do this stuff. You don't have to be like, I think that's 8 inches. That's not necessary. The fact that you have the codified, your first thing is a move, your second thing is something else, those are the rules, it makes declarations simpler. Yes, N5 has that now, but historically it didn't. You have magnet holes in the bases of most, not all, a little magnet hole at the bottom there, and a logo, which is cute, but magnet hole. There are lots of these little quality of life things that happen in this game that are just nice. It is a game that has been designed by people who have played games and understood them. And I don't mean from the technical perspective of understanding the rules. I mean from the perspective of what it means to play a war game. They've thrown dice. They've done those bits where you're like, hang on, how does the... Oh, God. And the things that are annoying. That's not to say the system is perfect. I've compared it repeatedly to Infinity, which is fair. And if I was to be honest, it's Infinity N3. For those of you who didn't play Infinity N3, one of the things that N3 had was lots of nested stuff. And that can be a little bit, especially when you're learning the game, a little bit, it slows you down. It's a little bit frustrating. It's not frustrating. Frustrating is the wrong word. It's an extra layer of complexity. So, like I said, on here, on this card here, we have an ability called Warrior. Go on, focus, you dang thing. Focus for me. Whoop. So, what Warrior means is that at the start of my turn, I can choose to put him in a position where rather than throwing 3 dice during my active turn and 1 in my reactive turn, he throws 3 in my reactive turn and 1 in my active turn. Yes, I know. Infinity players, I know. Yes. You can choose to do that. That's what Warrior means. Now, when you know that's what Warrior means, tickety-boo and everything's happiness. When you first come to the game, you go, oh, he's a warrior. That's exciting. And then you throw some dice. And then you get to the end and somebody goes, oh, did you use that ability on warrior? That's what? And there's lots of things like that. There's an ability called Sweep. And Sweep is listed in here. And you can find it in here. And it's fine because there's a really funky, like, index at the back. But you have to, it's not kind of written all on the cards. And that's something that when Infinity N4 came out, they got rid of. It's that nested rule. This means, woof. Okay, fine. Is it a deal breaker? Hell no. Is it frustrating? It's a lot to remember. It's a lot to keep between your ears. There's 3 miniatures. It's some to keep between your ears. There's limits for how intensive that is. What else do I want to say about this game? The actual playing of it. When you're building your lists, you have upgrade, so that's scheme cards, love that. You have upgrade cards as well. Again, these are per faction, so you can customize an individual character in your list. You can give them better weapons, you can give them better spell casting abilities, you can give them other spell casting abilities. There's a lot of things you can do with it. And it's all customized at that point. Cost points goes into your army list, but you can do that. It's the kind of D&D element. You can customize your crew beyond what just having the miniatures on deck would suggest, which is kind of funky. It's kind of cool. So you have the scheme option, you have the ability to upgrade option, and it kind of works. It's kind of nice. It is like token intensive. So you have, these are tokens from the starter set. There are a lot of tokens in this game. Like Infinity. And again, D20s, lots of D20s. Oh, the pretty ones from there, from Eldfall itself. There are so many similarities between Infinity and Eldfall Chronicles that if you play Infinity, you can pick this game up like, it's just, you know this game already, but it's smaller, it's quicker, it's fantasy, and it's pretty. What was my experience of this? I've played several games of this game now. I haven't lost yet. Sorry guys, I know, but it's true. I had an absolute blast. Like, you know when you play a game and you start off and you're kind of like, and you're trying to put it all together, and as the game progresses you get into grips with the system and you're learning it and you're feeling it and the hype builds. This game did that. I played my first game, I could have just, right, reset, go again. Do it again. I want to do all of that again. Same thing, let's go. And I had that with the next game as well. I could just play this game. It's just so much fun. It's new, it's exciting, it's interesting. I have all these different ways to play. There are lots of missions, lots of adventures that we can do, lots of different quests. 4 factions is more than enough. Even though there's currently 6 miniatures per faction, you only need 3. So there's lots of different combinations to put these in. When you have, so each of your armies, when you put it together, you will have a leader, and that leader has stratagems, which are on the bottom of the card here. So this guy, there you go, look at that, it's almost focused. These stratagems you can change at the start of your turn, and they have a profound impact. Like with Soga, they can give me extra movement, or they can give me extra defense, or whatever. Figuring out when to trigger those, when to stick your warrior in. I'm like, okay, I want to try that again, but different. I want to do this, but different. It's a really fun, engaging, cinematic system. And in my local community, I'm pushing it out there. One of my good friends, Mordred, he's pushing it out really hard as well. And the response, especially from the Infinity community, has been hell to the yes. Our local gaming store is currently having a medium-sized breakdown, trying to get it in on time because we're just selling it out. I think 14 or 15 players in a matter of weeks. That's the kind of uptake this has got. Does it deserve it? I think so. Very much so. You can play this casually, you can play it fluffy, you can play it competitively. It's pretty. Did I mention that? So, then we get to the downside, because you've got to buy the thing. Now this here, over my shoulder here, this is actually a 2-player starter set. In there you get 2 factions, 4 miniatures for each, that pack of tokens that I showed, that rule book that I showed off, the 4 dice, one of these big dudes, there's 2 different ones, one of these big dudes is in there as well. You get the cards that you need to play, away you go. That proper 2-player starter set is €70. There are 2 different ones, because you have the Soga versus the Helion, and then the Thenian versus the Desert Kingdom, or Sand Kingdoms. Desert Kingdoms. It's been a long day. So you get 2 factions, 2 full factions, normally playing with 3 miniatures to start off with. You have 4 in the box for each faction. For €70. You can buy a starter set for 35 to 40 euros for just one of those factions, but then you don't get the rulebook, you don't get the dice, you don't get the tokens. So I would say definitely get the starter set, split it with a buddy. You can form some type of agreement about who gets the rulebook on which weekends or whatever, entirely up to you. Then the same is true as well with these 2 sets of cards. I mean, these are €12, I think, is their RRP, and they contain all 4 factions. So if you take a faction, a friend takes a faction, and you have 2 other friends that do it, you can literally buy these for €24 and split it 4 ways, and you'll all have the stuff that you need. Simple as that. So it's incredibly actually cheap to buy into. It looks like it's going to continue that way. You can buy single miniatures. There is a process of like mercenaries. So this guy's got a white banner down here. That means that you can mercenary for other factions. So you can mercenary in, you can pick stuff up from Soga and stick it into Thenian if you want. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly legit. There's a lot of flexibility, there's a lot of give, and there's a lot of growth and a lot of development in this system coming up. And it doesn't cost much to buy into. If you're an Infinity player and you are interested in fantasy, this game is a no-brainer. You should. Really, you should. For €35 and a PDF download, you should. If you like fantasy and you want something that has a lot of flexibility and a lot of meat on it, a lot of different ways to play, you should. Eldfall Chronicles is definitely one you should look at. If you like pretty miniatures, and you like cinematic gameplay, and you like fun, and you like hanging out with your mates, and you want a war game that you can play in a relatively quick amount of time that doesn't require an hour to set up the table, you should get this game. There are very few reasons, in my opinion, not to buy Eldfall Chronicles. It is the most fun I've had in quite some time with a game, and the biggest surprise. Because like I've said before, there are so many games out in the market these days. We're getting swamped. Everywhere you look, I mean, at the moment we're getting all the announcements out of the US of all the stuff that's coming up. And we've had the re-releases of Star Wars Legion, who I mentioned earlier, and GW is vomiting stuff out like it's just going out of fashion. And there's 101 new things coming out every 15 minutes. If you take a punt, if you take a shot on one system, this should be it. You really won't regret it. Thank me later. We're going to be doing a lot on this channel because I think these guys are really deserve some support and deserve some love, and more importantly, I'm going to have a blast doing it. Locally, we already know we were going to be doing a tournament. That's why this box is here. This is going to be our tournament pack. So I'm going to miniatures are so pretty. I'm even breaking my own rules. I'm going to be entering my own tournament and playing in it just to try and win that miniature. It's growing like stink over here, and I think it probably will do for you. So if you give it a go, let us know what you think. If you're not sure, go and read the rules. They're pretty good. Is it a couple of moments you're like, yeah, there are, but for the most part, freaking awesome. Go and give them a check out, see what you think. If you have jumped in, let us know in the comments. If you're thinking about jumping in, let us know in the comments. If you have any questions, whack them down there too. But for the meantime, Eldfall Chronicles is something you need in your life. You just didn't know it. But for now, that's all I've got for you. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks as ever to patrons, members, blah, 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 blah. We will see you all again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.